For the last several days, we've been reading from the book of the prophet Amos. And Amos is severely reprimanding Israel, the northern kingdom, and for their sinfulness, and he's chastising them for the way they treat their poor, and their liturgical practices are bad. And then today he changes gears. The last 5 verses in the book of Amos are about this messianic promise, this great promise from God, a promise that God will unite all nations. He'll rebuild the house of God, and there'll be this time of incredible prosperity. And so he goes from chastisements to this great reward that's coming. And I want to go over that little bit of this prophecy in the reading from Amos. And he said that God will re-erect this tottering hut of David. So the tottering hut of David, you could think of that as the house of David. What is the house of David? That's God's people, the Israelites, right? But it starts off with, Adam and Eve, one family. It goes to Noah, an extended family. It goes to Abraham, a whole tribe. It goes to Moses, who ends up with 12 huge tribes that grow in the Nile Valley. It goes to King David, who unites those tribes into a nation, okay? And so God's now this nation that God has put together, it's tottering. It's having trouble in like 700 BC because the people aren't following God's laws. But this promise is that God's going to pull this back together and rebuild it. So it's a prophecy about the coming of Jesus in the kingdom of God. And then, so this re-erect the tottering hut of David and give him power over all nations. And so him, who's head of the house of David, it's Jesus. It's the kingdom of God. And so he's going to have power over all the nations. And it says it's going to be a time of extraordinary prosperity. It says there's several things that Brian read, like there'll be the plowman's going to overcome the reaper. So there's going to be lots of wheat. And then the juice of grapes shall drip down from the mountains. And there's so much grapes, it's just coming down like, a river of grape juice coming down. So incredible prosperity. And so in simple language, he's saying that this divine prophecy at the end of the book of Amos is that Jesus will conquer all nations and bring all nations together and unite them, not with force of arms, but with his word. In other words, all nations will be conquered by the peace of Jesus and be brought together. In other words, this kingdom of God, God's plan of salvation starts off with Adam and Eve, is now going to grow into all people, all nations. It's not a select group, it's everybody. But as you know and I know, there's lots of trouble in this world. And so this incredible peace is not going to come right away. In John's gospel, it says, I've told you this so that you might have peace in me, so peace in Jesus. In the world you will have trouble, but take courage, I have conquered the world. So Jesus is promising us that after all the tribulations, all the chastisements that we experience here on earth, that we will have a time of incredible joy, a joy that will never be taken away from us, a joy that we'll have experience in heaven. And so as I reflect on the book of Amos, I think that the takeaway from that in a short couple of sentences is that we need to respond positively to the chastisements that God sends our way, to the reprimands, to us, to make us improve. And let those chastisements open up our hearts to conversion, to change, to turn toward God. And we need to let our lives be led by this incredible promise that God gives us, a promise of eternal joy, eternal happiness, and conduct our lives now knowing what that promise is that God has for us in store.